Your birthday is the day that Hashem decided that the world couldn't manage without you. Meaning there has to be a uniquely you person on this planet for the world to continue, which is why God gave you life and has you on this planet. So, very wealthy man, a billionaire. Okay, Warren Buffett comes to the doctor. In that particular setting, the doctor is the billionaire, and Warren Buffett, although he may have money in his wallet, in his pocket, he's the poor person in the sense that he has to come to what the doctor has to offer, because in the medical knowledge field, he's poor. So every person has things that they know. Or if it's not things that they know, it's connections that they have. Every person has a certain uniqueness that they can monetize. It doesn't matter what. Everyone has some skill they can monetize instead of a full-time job, in addition to a full-time job. But there's a market out there for the weirdest, most niche things, as both of us know well from having been around the block a bunch of times. But ultimately, everyone can make money and can profit off the knowledge that they have and can help other people with it to get profit.
Welcome to the Let's Talk Business podcast, a project of the PTEX Group. Gain valuable, actionable ideas from the world's top business leaders to help you take the next step in your business journey. And now, here is your host, Meny Hoffman.
Coming to you from the PTEX headquarters in Brooklyn, New York, this is the podcast for no-nonsense advice to help you learn, grow, and lead. Today, I'm so excited to welcome our guest, my good friend, Rabbi Issamar Ginzberg. Rabbi Ginzberg is a business strategist, advisor, and community leader who helps countless entrepreneurs and executives find clarity, uncover opportunity, and take actions that drive real results. In my conversation, we spoke about what it means to create momentum in business, how to think like an advisor instead of just an operator, and the mindset shift that separates motion from real progress. It's a powerful discussion filled with straight talk, strategy, and experience. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Rabbi Issamar Ginzberg. Rabbi Issamar Ginzberg, thank you so much for joining me on the Let's Talk Business podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So our friendship goes back very, very many years ago. I think I found out about you when I was about to do our first business conference in America, and I was looking for
Diker Beach Golf Course, if I remember correctly.
Yes. And some of the listeners might remember. Some of them don't even know what we're talking about. It was our first business conference.
You had Shark Tank there. You had Gary Vaynerchuk there. It was a conference that changed the Jewish landscape of what marketing and marketing seminars and understanding how marketing affects a business really was. And you get the credit for it.
I appreciate it. Some of the credit, I would say. And the reason for that is because it wasn't a thing of getting together to learn. It was a thing of going to a conference and seeing all the packaging companies and all the companies doing X and Z and all the different services. It wasn't a thing taking your employees and going to an event and learning from other people. And Baruch Hashem, we're able to change the landscape in a format that's within the Jewish realm and being able to bring together so many Jewish business owners together. And that's when we met, and I've spoken to you since. We've worked on a bunch of different things in the past, and I don't know why you weren't a guest on the show, and the show is on now to the 5th year. And like recently I came across your name and said, wait a minute, you never were on the show? I had to go back to check. You weren't on the show, so now you're here.
So I'm going to be honest for you and for the audience. It's your show, and even though we're not competitors, you have a very well-known marketing agency, and I'm a one-man shop. We're not. It's like just like a pharmacy and a restaurant can both sell chewing gum and cans of soda. It doesn't make them competition. I don't see myself as your competition. You certainly don't see yourself as my competition. But I figured it's your show, and I'm not going to invite myself on it. Maybe you prefer I not be on it because of what you do. So I never asked you.
So my listeners know that I have been able to bring up agency owners. I've been able to bring up people that in the consultancy world. And the goal is because we all learn. I learn, my audience learns, and that's the purpose of the show, to bring them no nonsense advice. So thank you for coming on the show, and I appreciate making the time. For our listeners that don't know about you, I want to go back a little bit to the origin story. How did you get, you come from a rabbinic background. You here for the people that see the video with the packager. And you've been in the boardroom.
I was going to wear my hat, but since before we started we had some lighting issues, I didn't want to wear my hat and make my face totally dark. But
got it. So for our listeners, give us a little bit of a backstory, like how you got started to this industry.
I know that you have a very broad audience. Obviously, anyone who looks like me, who's in the business world, is going to be listening to this, and many people well beyond it. I remember like I think you had Raymond Ray once on your show. I mean, I know you have a very broad, people come on the show, and obviously people listen to the show. So I want to say a Yiddish quote, and then I'll translate it for the non-Yiddish speakers. But it sounds
Sure.
much better in Yiddish. You can trust me on this one. The emes is the beste Lügn, which means the truth is the best lie you can tell. Why? Because when a person feels they have to tell a lie to get out of some situation, then they have to constantly remember what they said so they don't say something else that contradicts what they said originally. When someone says the truth, it's easy to sleep at night because you don't have to worry that you're going to contradict yourself because you're just saying the truth, and therefore you don't have to have a memory of what you said. You could rather just remember what actually happened. So the reason why I'm answering that in response to your question is because in hindsight, it's crystal clear how I got here. But going forward, I kind of fell into it. So in a nutshell, the story goes like this. Even though people ask me for advice since I was a teenager, if not before, the way this became an official business was because my first real job was working for Meridian Capital. From there, I went to Eastern Union Funding. From Eastern Union Funding, and my good buddy Iris Lauder was till today, and A. Bergman, amazing people. Everyone in Meridian is amazing too, and that's not a hint one way or the other. I, Baruch Hashem, like everybody, very grateful to Meridian for my first job. But along the way, what happened was that I'm the type of person that whenever I do something, I try to go deep, I try to go all in. So if in order to get a mortgage, you have to know what a loan to value is, which when I made my first cold call, I had no idea. I'm like, can you hold on one second? What does loan to value mean? But as you start learning more and more, so from doing mortgages, I got to know about credit, personal credit, business credit, FICO scores, how they work, how to change them, how, and this is like just a quick tip, just throwing in there. I don't know how many of your listeners think about this fact. It's true for what I'm about to say, and it's true beyond this for so many areas of life, which is why it's so important to get advice from somebody who knows more than you do about something. And everyone has areas where they know more than somebody else, and everyone has areas where the other person knows more than they do. Did you know that if your credit card statement, just to pick easy dates, if your credit card every month, your bill gets mailed to your house or gets emailed to you on the first of the month, that means the statement closed, let's say, 5 days before that on the 25th of the month. That means whatever your balance was on the 25th day of the month, that's the balance that's going to show on your credit report for the next 30 days for that account. Therefore, if you can pay off your account in full on the 24th of the month, instead of waiting till the 1st or till whenever, then on your credit report, it'll show you how to zero balance, which will make your credit score go up tremendously since you have no balance, which means if you applied for a mortgage the following month, you'll have a much higher score, which means a much lower rate, and you can literally save $1.3 million over the life of a loan and a house in Brooklyn, simply because you paid your mortgage a few days early, because you had the awareness that paying it a few days earlier will change your credit score, which will put you in a better credit bracket, which will make the bank more likely to approve you and at a lower rate and give you a higher loan to value, etc.
Oh, wow.
So the reason I'm bringing it here is because everything I do, as I said, I try to go deep. I ended up going deep into personal credit and business credit. I ended up writing a book, which is not available anymore. So I know whenever I get interviewed, I get a lot of emails about it. But I did write a book about business credit, which I sold for the grand total, an ebook, for the grand total of $27. A guy came to me, his name is Andy Havens. Hi, Andy, great guy. And he came from, I don't know where, some other state, took an Amtrak, came to meet me in New York. And his offer to me was as follows. I will rewrite your landing page. I think you have a great book, but I don't think you know the first thing about if you change your landing page, you sell many more books. And you don't have to pay me anything. I want you to raise the price of the book from $27 to $47, and I want $20 a book. So as long as I don't sell less books, I have nothing to lose. Anyway, we made this deal. He rewrote my landing page, started selling for $47, so no decrease in sales, even though the price was $20 higher. And that led me into the world of copywriting. So now, once I understood how copywriting works, I started reading books, taking courses, understanding, analyzing, thinking about all the books that when I was a kid, I should go back a little bit, used to be a magazine, I think it's still around, it's called Spare Time. It's like a version of Entrepreneur magazine, but it's not as sophisticated. You've had Jason Pfeiffer on your show?
I tried. If you have, yeah, so far he says he has other commitments, but if you want to bring him on the show, the invitation is open.
After this, we finish this podcast, I have some ideas for you who might be good people for your show. And
Sure.
hopefully help you with that.
Appreciate it.
I was at Entrepreneur, writing for Entrepreneur before Jason Pfeiffer came. I mean, I'm technically longer than him at Entrepreneur, but we won't go there. Okay, anyway. So what happened was that they used to do this magazine called Spare Time. I had a friend still a friend of mine, lives in Lakewood. Hello, Moshe Shmuel. And he used to get to his house this magazine. And I was once in his house as a teenager. Why I went to his house for some reason. And he had this magazine, and I saw the ad there. There was an ad that said like, learn how to make $1,000, learn how to make $500 a day. Send $4 to D Chambers. I still remember the name of the guy. And basically, it was all these like what they call them a biz op type of list where people are looking for business opportunities, sell gold by the chain. Basically, you buy a roll of gold chain for necklaces, and you sell it by the yard, by the foot, whatever. Anyway, I started analyzing different ads, direct media, direct mail, the olden days when there still was PO boxes and you had to send a check and wait 6 weeks. And other than Torah learning, where the Yetzer Hara, the Satan gets involved in trying to keep a person from being higher on a spiritual level, other than that, whatever I do, I try to go all in deep, which led me to expertise in business credit, and as I said later on, marketing, so on and so forth. From the business credit book that I sold, people who bought the book started asking me questions about business credit, which led to it wasn't written in my own name, it was written under a pen name. And from there, people who asked questions about business credit started asking me general business questions, and I started that's how I backed into being a business consultant through the book about business credit, that people were asking me credit questions where they knew I had expertise, which then led to regular business questions. But I've, Baruch Hashem, praise God, been blessed to help a lot of business owners, even from that business credit book. I remember those days net cafes were people didn't have high-speed internet at home, and people used to go to a cafe where you basically paid a computer by the hour to use high-speed internet. It was like DSL. It was like, wow, so fast. And from there, I even remember a specific client that I got then that I was able to help get from Dell Computer, an entire setup for their business, computers, routers, printers, modems, whatever they needed. They simply took a place, took a lease, paid the first month's rent, got some tables. Everything else was covered by a Dell business credit line of credit. If the business wouldn't work out for whatever reason, it wouldn't be on their personal guarantee. It would just be send the stuff down back to Dell and you're done. And they started a very successful business just because of an awareness of certain business credit tools I was able to give them, just as an example.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that you from there, you got into consultancy, you worked with some large companies, including Google. Question is a twofold question is, there are people that just lucky opportunities come their way and siyata d'shmaya. At the same time, some people know this is the route I want to take and this is where I want to go, and therefore I want to differentiate myself, so I want to get on that platform. What was it for you, and what type of arrangements did you have in order to get you on those platforms?
How many hours do I have to answer just this question?
Let's get started. We'll figure it out.
Okay, so in the Jewish world, there was a sage, a tzaddik, a well-known gudel, as we would say in our world. His name there's many of them, every generation has them, and they, unfortunately, as the time passes, they pass away, and there's new ones. But just as an example, a very famous one that the Jewish audience of the people listening to this would know who it is. For the rest of them, you'll have to do some Googling. But let's call him the most respected, most widely accepted sage in the Jewish world in general was a person in Bnei Brak. His name was Rav Chaim Kanievsky. And again, there was Rav Moshe Feinstein years before that. Hard to go through. There's plenty of them. Basically, every time the giant Torah teacher of the generation passes away, there's a new one who's now from what's left among us, who becomes the head. But I knew very early on that I am not going to be the Reb Chaim Kanievsky of the generation. I am not going to be the Tasher Rebbe. And if anyone here who is interested in this stuff hasn't read his Art Scroll biography, you must read it. And my brain flips over every time I think about, I'm talking about simple acts of kindness and acts of wisdom. I'm not talking about, miracles and stuff like that. I'm talking about simply how a person was able to transform so many lives because he listened and he had wisdom and he was, connected to the one above. So I knew I'm not going to be not the Tasher Rebbe and I'm not going to be Chaim Kanievsky. But whatever skills I have, God did give me, whatever skills the Eibishter benched me with, I could try to use those skills and try to help people in that way and become the top person in that and try to help as many people as I can. So being even on this podcast, I look at it. I was talking to a client earlier today. I was using this podcast as an example. I said, I'm going to be on a podcast later today. Will it bring me any customers, any clients? I have no idea. But it'll be helping people because all the people listening will walk away smarter than they started. And that in and of itself is the goal. If it does anything beyond that, wonderful. But if it's just this, that, it was worth my doing.
Exactly.
So that's essentially how I look at what I do. And I knew that I want to one day, being from the family that I come from and being the legacy that I carry, it's not for this podcast. I don't mind talking about it. I just don't think your audience particularly wants to spend time on that. My great grandfather was a very special person. He was a Rebbe, a grand rabbi. He had a shul in the Bronx. He passed away very young, got sick and passed away. My great grandmother, who not only I remember, but my son still remembers, his great great grandmother, she was the eldest child of the Rabbi Issamar Ginzberg, who I'm named after. To make a long story short, my great grandmother passed away recently, fairly recently. She was 105, and nobody took over her husband's position. She was a widow, an almuna, for 50 something years. And I essentially aspired to, I knew that one day I'm going to have a shul where I'm going to be the rabbi, and I'm going to essentially, hopefully, try to fill in some small way, at least if not his shoes, at least his name and legacy. And therefore, I always look to do things that wouldn't contradict that. So if I worked in a pizza shop, or I became I did some kind of business which is respectable and fine. Being a plumber is a very kosher way to make an honest living, as an example. But I didn't think for me where I was going that would work. I was looking for something that matched what I was ultimately looking to achieve, which Baruch Hashem, thank God, I was able to achieve. I live in Yerushalayim Kodesh, and Baruch Hashem, 3-minute walk from here is the shul that I am blessed to run. I don't know how you say, to feed, to carry on the mantle that my great grandfather and his father and so on held. And that's why essentially consulting was appealing to me, because it's not so different than when many people, when they need to have a question and they go to a rebbe, they go to a rabbi to ask what to do. But instead of me coming and saying, "Oh, I'm connected up, I'm connected upstairs, do this or do that," it's much more of a, comes to medical questions or other questions, go ask somebody else. My plights, my shoulders aren't wide enough for that. Comes to business questions, between my experience and my knowledge and my siyata d'shmaya and my having descended from a lot of very famous holy Jews, hopefully it's a good blend that people find valuable. And
Got it. But in terms of getting on the stage, like there's one thing about the person knowing, like, okay, this is my calling and this is how I can make a difference. There's other thing about seeking out places where you could actually be in front in order to build your influence, build out your expertise. What was that a strategy, getting on those, working with these larger companies, or was it a coincidence?
Okay, the answer is that I have spoken for many large events. Just to give an example, I once spoke to the Jewish National Fund, which is not a Hasidic thing by any stretch. I believe it's like Herzl made it, like Herzl's organization or something. I could have got that wrong. Forgive, if I got it wrong, some listener is going to write it in the comments. But to make a long story short, when I was called there, they have a biannual conference every 2 years. They bring like big donors. They had me come speak there. Now they paid me to come speak there, except I never even asked for the bill. I never even billed them after the event for speaking there. Why? Because for me, speaking there was like the way the people in the army, the more stars you have, or the pilot, the more stripes you have. The fact that I spoke there did something for me. When I spoke for Google, when I got that email from Google asking me to speak, and they heard about me from somebody who heard me speak at a different event and who was employed by Google, when I got that email, I thought it was a scam, but I was waiting for it. Because I knew that for a guy who looks like me, I was kind of aiming for it, in the sense, not that I cold called people or stuff like that, but I kind of had a vision that if I get there, that's going to be my university degree on lambskin hanging behind me. Because people like Meny Hoffman are going to say, and he did this, and he did that. I knew that that would be a credibility seal for me that would take me very far. So yes, I did hope for it. I did, kind of have it as an aspirational goal. I did not actively work specifically to get there. And I've been on different, in our world, maybe it's not so acceptable, but I asked, questions of people bigger than me if I should do them. I've been on different television. I've done a lot of things, and hopefully I'm not even trying to make a Kiddush Hashem. I'm hopefully praying I shouldn't do the opposite of a Kiddush Hashem, which means I don't want to desecrate God's name. If I'm able to sanctify God's name and people say, wow, because of something I said or I did or I helped, that's even more amazing, obviously.
Got it. So let me dive into a couple of things that I've seen you do throughout the years. Obviously, you work with business owners. Some of it is on the marketing side. But one of the things that you say is everyone has something unique, but most people never use it. And that's something that you've been able to work with business owners to figure that out. Share with us a little bit more about that concept and for our listeners to take something away out of it.
Okay. So I will start by saying I'm not sure if this is from the late Lubavitcher Rebbe or if it's from my Zayd Reb Nachman, Breslev, who I descend from, among many other tzaddikim. But one of them said, I just don't remember offhand, that your birthday is the day that Hashem decided that the world couldn't manage without you. Meaning there has to be a uniquely you person on this planet for the world to continue, which is why God gave you life and has you on this planet. So I have a client and a friend, you had him on your show, my cousin, Naftula Horowitz, Mark Horowitz.
Sure.
And Twice, okay. Amazing human being, and just I'm not talking about his work with JP Morgan and his background. I'm talking about simply the amount of energy and of brain that he puts in to help people, to educate people, so people don't get scammed, so people can build their life better. I mean, really an amazing person. Anyway, so one second. I once interviewed him for a private thing that I did. And we were discussing that when a very wealthy man, a billionaire, okay, Warren Buffett comes to the doctor, in that particular setting, the doctor is the billionaire, and Warren Buffett, although he may have money in his wallet, in his pocket, he's the poor person in the sense that he has to come to what the doctor has to offer, because in the medical knowledge field, he's poor. So every person has things that they know. Or if it's not things that they know, it's connections that they have. It's the ability. Every person has a certain uniqueness that they can monetize. Once upon a time, my company was called Monetized Intellect because it was about essentially monetizing the seichel, the brains, the knowledge, the wisdom that God gave you, and being able to figure out how to print money from it. And I believe it's true across the board. One person is very good at playing chess. Another person is very good at taking care of goldfish. Doesn't matter what. Everyone has some skill they can monetize instead of a full-time job, in addition to a full-time job. But there's a market out there for the weirdest, most niche things, as both of us know well from having been around the block a bunch of times. And there's money to be made, just people doing things that they know. Now, I will not say, I don't like so much when people say, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, because ultimately, even though it might be true, it's much more profitable to learn to love what you do than do what you love. If you can learn to love what you do, you'll make a lot more money because you do something profitable. But at the same time, there is a niche for every person to monetize what they know or to use their unique skill. I mean, I would love to have somebody give me violin lessons. I mean, I can play 3 songs, and trust me, you don't want me to at your kid's wedding playing. But I would love it, but I'm not going to go. I need someone to come to my house who's going to come and if he shows up, I'll be ready, and I have a bunch of violins here, in the closet here, different sizes. But ultimately, everyone can make money and can profit off the knowledge that they have and can help other people with it to get profit.
What is the fastest way for a person to figure that out? So obviously people listening on the show, some of them are business owners and they're looking to grow, while there are other people that are C-level executives or employees of companies, and they're looking to add more value and ultimately, have an easier way of expanding in their, in what they could bring home. What would you say if somebody would consult with you? What's the easiest way to figure that out?
So when someone comes to me, again, it depends where they're holding in life and which stage, which age, so on and so forth. But just in short, someone comes to me and says, okay, this is, I'd like to do something. So just a few random examples. One person told me that his father is a famous, I can't give away stuff, even though I'm not going to say personal, since a lot of your listeners are in our community, I got to be even more careful what I say. I'll just be a little more generic than I would usually be. So one person came to me and told me that his father is in a, let's say someone came to me and told me that his father is in the travel industry. So you can argue that's a good industry to get into. Many people would argue it's a terrible industry to get into. People booking tickets online and people using mileage travel, so they have to book directly with the airlines or with their credit card company. But what I was able to do for him was I was able to identify why that he is similar to his family member who runs a large travel company, and to figure out a different business that would use that same skill set, but that would be able to latch on to that thing, but in a totally different field. Mm-hmm. And Baruch Hashem, praise God, he's very successful in that field. Another angle, a person comes to me and I'm like, okay, what does your father do? What does your father-in-law do? What do your brother-in-laws do? Because simply sometimes a person says something. I had a consultation today with somebody, and like 57 minutes in, the person says, oh, by the way, my mother-in-law, whatever, writes a famous column in that newspaper. And suddenly I'm like, why does Hashem always make that at 57 minutes in, suddenly you throw a hand grenade and you blow up the whole conversation? Why couldn't you mention that at the beginning? Like, the whole conversation would have been so different. Depending every person, again, who they know, what they're good at, is really the right way to answer that question. I will tell you that there's a famous book that I like. It's called Anyone Can Do It. And the writer is Duncan Bannatyne. He's a Scottish. He's like on Dragon's Den, which is whatever they call it there. I think it's called Dragon's Den, which is like Shark Tank in the United States of Canada. Mm-hmm. And in his book, what I really liked about it is he talks about how he got started. And the way he got started was by doing nursing homes. How did he decide to build a nursing home? He says, I read the newspaper, and the newspaper had the same thing in it. You know, everyone reads the same newspaper. And it said that the government of the UK, which then at the time the Prime Minister was Margaret Thatcher, had a big problem at the time that they weren't paying for nursing homes for elderly British and Scottish citizens, and people were at home, and there were terrible articles in the newspaper, people dying at home and people not being taken care of. So the government decided they would start paying for, as in the United States, nursing care for older people. He says, I saw the same article as everybody else in the newspaper, except when I saw that, I figured, okay, if the government's going to be paying for nursing homes, then it's essentially government guaranteed income. So instead of just opening a nursing home, and what do you do if you have a person in your nursing home for 10 years, the person runs out of money? What do? You can't kick them out. I'm going to keep talking to you. Just for the record, there's a siren outside that there's a missile attack. So my kids are coming into the room. They'll be here. They're nice and quiet, and we'll continue. Okay.
Oh, wow. Stay safe.
Yeah, it's good. That's part of life these days.
Wow.
So actually, my office is the safe room in the house. It's the specially reinforced office with the double doors and the double windows. So this is the safe room. So I can still work, and they can join me at work. Okay. So Duncan Bannatyne said, I saw the exact same thing in the paper as everybody else, but I did something about it. So my father used to say that what you see on the first page of the business section, 2 years later it's on the first page of it's the headline of the top of the front page. And it's true. Being able to identify what works, what other people have done, you're not supposed to copy somebody else. You're supposed to think about, as Wayne Gretzky says, don't look at where the puck is, look at where the puck is going. So now I have to explain for our audience what that means. There's a game called hockey, and in hockey, every person holds a stick. It's like an upside-down baseball, bat, kind of, like a broom. At the bottom of the stick, and there's a thing called a puck, which is a little orange, like a little cupcake. I don't know how to describe it. And essentially, if you try to skate on the ice to where the puck is now, by the time you get there, it's not going to be there anymore. You try to figure out mathematically in your head where the puck is going, and skate there so you can meet the puck there, and then you can hit the puck into the net and get a goal. I'm not an expert at sports in general. Hockey, I'm not Canadian either, but hopefully I did a good enough job that people will find it close enough to real life. But the quote is a good quote, and people who want to do something should just think about what skills they have, as well as what the market needs. And the whole world of AI, just as an example, to go back to Duncan Bannatyne, is so new that it's ground level. There's nobody that could come and say they've been doing it for years, and therefore they have an edge up over you. Anything that's like the nursing homes in England during Margaret Thatcher, anything a person can do that they're starting from ground level is something that's an equal opportunity.
Got it. So let me ask you, in terms of marketing, I know that you started, the background was marketing. So do you feel that your appearance in terms of, the beard, the black hat, for even for the outside of the community, is that an advantage that you have? You're feeling that, okay, like the purple cow?
It's a very good question. I think you'll relate to what I'm about to say, and I'd love your opinion on it. You're doing a very good job of getting information out of me, but I think that your audience doesn't get so much to hear from you as yourself, not as the interviewer, but as the person. This is something I think that we should both give our opinions on. I think that in our world, for example, when an Orthodox Jewish man who looks like me or like you comes into the room, he's automatically given a discount to his knowledge. Because, if a guy comes and he's been in the Navy or anything, he's just like a guy who can take a shaver and go a 360 around his head. Even better if he has a snake tattoo on his arm, then he gets that. And if he has a pink mohawk or a pink ponytail, somehow people look at him as he knows what he's doing. He's, like they give him a certain respect as far as knowledge of a certain industry. But when it comes to somebody who looks like I do, for example, they're like, well, he went to yeshiva, I went to yeshiva. I mean, what? Why should I pay him for knowledge? What does he know that I don't know? And I think it actually works as a disadvantage from the outside in our world. In the general world, I find personally that I get religious people, even if they're not necessarily Jewish, but people of a specific religion, much faster than I get people who are just, I don't want to call them necessarily atheists, but people who are not religious, because religious people feel a certain derech or connection, respect. I don't know exactly what it is, but I will tell you that my look certainly helps, that even who in general might really use words that you or I wouldn't want to use in our daily life, because they know they're speaking to a person who's a rabbi, they try to keep their language very fine, and they try to filter what comes out of their mouth before they say it. But having said, once a person knows, for example, if a person would hears you in your podcast and all your other places in which which people see you, or me, for example, on this podcast, then by the time you're coming to someone, if you're warmed up because you saw they gave you an aha moment and they gave you knowledge, it gives you that much more. It gives you that much more comfort knowing that this person does know what they're doing, and at that point, the clothing doesn't matter. I mean, I certainly agree that if the police were doing, what do they call it when they want to identify a suspect, they make a lineup.
Lineup, yeah.
I certainly agree that if there's a lineup of 5 people that look like, the average American guy who's 35 who went to the U.S. Army, okay, who all look pretty much the same. I mean, obviously you can pick among those, but I'm saying in general, and you have me as the other guy, obviously I'm going to look very different. So yes, it helps as far as being memorable. It doesn't necessarily help as far as getting business. Mm-hmm. I think again, that's just
it's interesting. Before we dive into this week's episode, I wanted to share an opportunity that many business owners are already taking advantage of. If you're feeling stuck or unsure about your next move in your business, there's still time to turn things around. That's where a clarity session comes in. This is a focused one-time strategy session with me personally, where we'll break down your biggest challenges, identify opportunities, and map out your best next steps for your business. You'll walk away with a clear action plan to move forward with confidence. Now, I want to make this clear from the get-go. This is not an ongoing consulting offer. You know your business best. This session is simply about giving you the clarity and direction you need to take action and make the rest of the year a success. Many entrepreneurs have already gained incredible value from those sessions, so don't miss out. Reach out to me now by emailing podcast@ptexgroup.com. I look forward to speaking to you and seeing how I could bring more clarity to your business. I'll just chime in on you asked for my perspective on it. So I'll say, I remember I was once interviewed a couple of years ago by a non-Jewish podcast, and interviewed me. And he brought in religions, in terms of my appearance and looks. And he asked me, do I have a disadvantage? He asked me on the show, do I have a disadvantage of getting on stage, speaking, in terms of opportunities? And I told him that only a small percentage of people take you at face value. Most people want to see, do you have something to deliver them value? And most people want to understand. It might be like you said, it's the warm up, but if you do have something that you could contribute to the individual, to the business, most people will look beyond what you wear, beyond what you look, and try to extract that value from you. That's in the secular world. And he actually said, you know what? Now that you're saying it, you're really raising a good point. And I think an average person that is not agenda driven, that's how they look at individuals. They should look at individuals, looks are deceiving. It's not about how the person looks, it's how getting into a conversation and seeing what value what that friendship could bring, what knowledge that person could bring, and so on and so forth. That's in terms of the outside of the community. Within the community, I think I've been advocate for consultants and coaches for the longest time. And people were always asking me, should I take a coach? Should I take a consultant? In what's their resume look like, and so on and so forth. And my answer to that is always the same, which is sometimes if you need an accountability partner, you're somebody to hold you accountable. Who cares what the resume of that person looks like? It's either you can connect and that person's accountability will work for you and hold you accountable for be able to push you to the limits and so on and so forth. If it's about sometimes thinking out of the box, which is again, that person is bringing a dynamic to in a thought process that you personally didn't think that way. You're stuck in your business. You're stuck in a certain box because this is how you've been doing it for the last 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is. You want to grow and you're looking for somebody to take you out of that box and give you ideas. And that person brings that from regardless what the background is. If they have the knowledge, they have the experience that they got throughout the last couple of years they're doing it, they could bring you that knowledge. So I'm in the same, I think I'm the same page so that how you answered it, but I feel as individuals, and this is actually me speaking to our listeners more than to you, is sometimes we shy away of getting ourselves out there and doing stuff because the lack of belief and the lack of self-confidence in ourselves. But the short answer is, if you have something to deliver, it's your God-gifted talent that Hashem gave you, as you said before, that the world is waiting for. So what are you waiting for? If you have something to offer, regardless how you look, regardless of how you are dressed, that shouldn't stop you to be able to deliver that value to Klal Yisrael and to the even the larger world, because you have something that you could contribute to the world and make the world a better place.
Amazing. That's amazing. While you spoke, I got 3 different points that I wanna answer, that I wanna continue the conversation by saying. But first, I just want to give first a little insight here. I write, for example, haven't recently. I'm supposed to start again. It's one of those things that I need my own coach to push me sometimes. Baruch Hashem, it's for good reasons. I'm busy, but I write for a Jewish paper, which just proves how niches work, called Hamodia. I've written a couple hundred columns there, and how many columns can I say that I got customers from that column? Or I've written for Entrepreneur. How many customers can I say I've gotten from that column? I do a weekly podcast, I guess, for a Yiddish language hotline called Komavasa, which I believe you're also on.
As a guest, not as a full column.
Okay. Which is, by the way, shows your audience how wide the world is. There's a hotline in a language that most people don't speak. By the way, hello, Professor Yevik. Every single person that I know who listens to that hotline is pretty much someone who looks like me or you and lives in, I could name the zip codes or countries or cities they live in. I once got an email from a professor, and forgive me, professor, if it's in Alberta or someplace else in Canada, that he used my number, my 345 number on Komavasa hotline to teach himself Yiddish.
Oh, wow.
So there's my target market that I'm targeting. Then there's other people who somehow find me and become people who like me and follow me and email me and become close to me. But it's certainly true that writing for Hanamodia it's like when you throw a rock into the water, it makes circles, ripples wider and wider. Hamodia, so Kol Mavasar is a Yiddish-speaking Jewish audience. Wider than that is Hamodia, which is an English-speaking Orthodox Jewish audience. Wider than that, just as an example, Jerusalem Post, which is Jews or people who are who like the land of Israel. Mm-hmm. Wider than that is Entrepreneur Magazine, which is General Business Magazine. Now, even though I cover in different ways all those different circles, and I get credibility from all those different circles, at the end of the day, the thing that brings me the most consistently new people is Kol Mavasar. Not because only it's something which is speaking to people in a language that's their first language. It's because it's week after week. Mm-hmm. Okay? If we take this podcast, let's say, is going to be an hour long, and we're speaking 100 words a minute, which is probably, we're speaking more than that because we're both from Brooklyn. But if it was 100 words a minute times 60 minutes, that's 6,000 words. If you're writing an article in a newspaper, it's 600 words. So this is 10 articles, and you're seeing my facial expressions, you're hearing my voice, you're seeing what I look like. So there's so much more comfort. When I go places, I'm sure you have the same thing. I go on a plane, and so many people know who I am, and they think, they are my best friend. if they know me well and I don't know them from beans. I mean, when I
Sure.
made my son's bar mitzvah, my son's Baruch Hashem married now, so this is goes back approximately 9 years ago. People came to the bar mitzvah to tell me thank you, that they listen to me every week and they're so thankful and whatever. And they actually showed up in Monsey to the hall where the bar mitzvah was, upstate
Nice.
New York. And so there's things that you do for credibility and to build yourself, which does ultimately long-term bring you clients. And there's things you do, for example, doing this on a video will bring much more people closer to my world than if it was just an article in a newspaper. So it's understanding exactly how it works and how, I know a guy who used to tell me, he used to say, I have a face perfect for radio.
Mm-hmm.
But now the three things I wanted to tell you were the following. There's a famous expression among many others in English. Once I got in trouble, I spoke for a Chamber of Commerce in Virginia, and I said a phrase which I did not mean in a racist way at all. It didn't occur to me that it's racist. The phrase was, I'm not sharing it here to be racist, I'm sharing it here to be educational. When I grew up, there was a kid in my class who he used to always say, are you out of your cotton picking mind? I had no idea about slavery, African Americans. I mean, I knew about the Civil War, but I didn't know that saying out of your cotton picking mind might be taken by somebody who's African American as degrading. So I'm speaking in Virginia, of all places, for a very non-Jewish audience, holding a Slurpee in my hand so I don't have any issues. Do I shake hands? Don't I shake hands? That's the secret tip. When you're in an audience, you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. You hold something in your hand, shake hand, so that there's no issues with giving handshakes to people who, according to halacha, Jewish law, meaning to say a man for women, a woman for men, etc.
Yeah.
And so that was an expression that I learned not to use. There's another expression would be beam me up, Scotty. Now, it's an expression, and I know the expression, but being my background and where I come from, I've never seen the movie or series. I don't know if it's Star Wars or Star Trek or something else. I know it exists, but I've never seen it, so I can't tell you where it's from. But I could just tell you that growing up in a sheltered environment, I mean, not super duper sheltered, obviously, as you can see from this conversation, my parents didn't, lock me in a room and tell me to only read the stories about the Heilige Zayde, the Rebbe of Meilach of Lezhensk. But in the world of marketing or the world of helping companies, I think it's a major benefit because I don't have this context of what's been overdone or underdone or has been tried or hasn't been tried, because I'm coming with fresh ideas.
Sure.
I'm coming with fresh ideas because I haven't been exposed to the same tens of thousands probably or more of commercials and of media. What is advertised at baseball games on the screens? I have no idea. Coca-Cola, beer. I don't know who else advertises. And Apple, maybe Audi. I don't know who. Mercedes, Olympics. I have no idea. But the ability of not being so deep in that world has been very much to my advantage as far as being able to advise people with a fresh look, because I'm not jaded by what has or hasn't been done. The next thing I wanted to say is the following. When a person, I also want to talk about after, I don't want to forget about coaching versus consulting, because you kind of touched on it. But when someone comes to me and they say, I'm a graphic designer, help me find jobs, help me, get me some, send me some customers, or they're looking for a full-time job, I tell them, don't try to find a job. I don't think that's the way to do it right. Take 3 weeks and make fake ads. If Coca-Cola would hire you, what would you make them? Pick your poison, which companies are in your world of, what works. Apple. And then when you go to your interview or you try to get jobs, show your portfolio, show what you've done. And instead of saying, well, I did this for a dentist and I did this for a local shoe store, you can say, Coke didn't hire me, but if they did, this is what I would show. And in the person's mind, even though you're being truthful, they still can visualize your creativity as being something of a level that Coke would, assuming it's a good creative, that Coke would use. So therefore, I'm a big believer in that once you get that first step in the door, once you get that first person to hire you, then it doesn't matter anymore if you went to graphic design school, if you learned it on your own from YouTube videos.
Your skills.
It's all about the first step. The first step is harder if you don't go to the right school. But once you get past that first step, it's the same road down.
I want to add something for our listeners. I think it's something that I've shared in one-on-one with a lot of people in the past, and I think it's just based on what you just said. we live currently, the time of recording this, people that are looking for their first job are at a disadvantage because inflation is high, so cost of living is high. They're coming with literally zero skills other than a goodwill, and they wanna get into their first job, but it's hard. It's hard to find those jobs. So I've been saying this for many people recently, privately, and I'll say it here publicly. It's not only for a first-time job, people that are seeking new positions. That it makes a huge difference if you come to an interview and say, "Do you have any experience?" And then you say, "No, it's my first. No, I have zero experience. Never worked with anything and never done anything. This is my first job, my first interview." Versus you say, "Didn't have a job, but I took a course on QuickBooks. I took a course on Excel, Google." Because that shows that you took your own initiative on something. The same is with even an existing employee. If you're looking for a new opportunity, if you could show for your next interview that in my job, I didn't have a lot of experience. I just worked as an office manager, blah, blah, blah. But in my side hustle, I took this course. I learned AI a little bit. I learned automation. Which shows outside of even if you're not a professional in that skill that you learned, but it shows that you took the time to try to advance your skills. And I think it goes very well with what you said. I'm obviously where PTEX Group is an agency by heart. And we get resumes every single week from people that just graduated from some sort of design school. And I get, sometimes you could see a person saying, you're literally sending this empty portfolio, like what they made for their cousin, a logo, an invitation. There's nothing there I should be able to pass it on to my team to say, take a look at this resume. But sometimes you could say, the person will say exactly what you said. Like some of the stuff in my portfolio are just projects that I've done on the side just to get familiar with my skill. And all of a sudden you could start seeing which company they chose, which direction they went. That tells you a lot about that person. So don't underestimate what this Rabbi Issamar just said, because it's a very, very important point.
So do I have your permission to share my screen? I don't know if you've ever done this on a podcast. Can I share my screen a second?
You can share the screen, but we have a huge audience which is audio only. So
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now.
Should be on the bottom where you can share a screen. It's like an arrow going up.
Just a second. Chrome tab, ChatGPT. Okay. You can see now, for the people who can see, you see my screen. And while you were talking, I typed on the bottom, I am going for a job interview for an extermination company in New York. I spelled it wrong. Don't worry. ChatGPT and I, we have an understanding about my spelling, even when it's off. I know how to spell. I want to know basics of extermination so I can show I have taken the initiative and have an edge over other applicants. That's all I'm writing it. Send. Okay? Now, I don't know I'm doing this live with you on the thing. I haven't prepared it before. I didn't know we were going to discuss this. This wasn't I think you'll admit, for your audience, we should both admit that we didn't send each other questions and what we want to talk about. It's totally free-flowing.
That's my policy on all my guests.
And I didn't ask you for one because I'm very happy to do this free-flowing. Okay, sure. But just like this, if you were going for, I'm particularly using an extermination company. I've done this successfully for somebody just as a favor. One of my listeners who called me emailed me for advice. He's going for a job interview. I told him this exact thing in another area. I said, when you come on Monday morning, you should, when he says, you know anything about extermination? You know anyone who's an exterminator? You should have enough knowledge that if he has 10 applicants, or 2, he knows you already have a leg up. So what are the common pests in New York? What do you have to know about inspection? What are the tools for this? What regulations you have to know? Okay? So now, if you read this, then you will automatically have an edge over any other applicant that's applying for this job.
It's such an important point. Like, I'll give you an example. And again, we said before, looks is deceiving, and sometimes like how a person comes to an interview is also deceiving. But I will tell you something. When I speak to someone and they said even the following statement, what you're showing was one level ahead, where I made some research to understand the industry. Yeah. But it was somebody told me, by the way, before I came, I went to the company's website. I saw some of your projects, and they give me feedback on one of the projects, even if they compliment, even I know that it's maybe not sincere. Yeah. But they took the effort of going to the website and checking out some case studies to understand what we did in those projects before they come to our interview. I'm talking, obviously, they're graphic designers, so they're speaking about that skill. Or I'll meet with someone, they'll say, you know what, I checked out your podcast. I like one of the previous episodes that I listened to, and they give me like one small thing about it. it shows you care. It shows your that you prepared yourself. But what Issamar showed on the screen for the audience listening on audio, he basically showed today ChatGPT could be your best friend. If you're going for an interview for a company, and you want to a little bit understand, he did it as an experiment for an exterminator. You could, in 15 minutes, get familiar with the basics of what's going on in the space, just to be able to be knowledgeable enough when the person comes and it says, we have 3 types of customers. We have customers that call us for X, and for Y, and for Z. And it says, by the way, nobody calls you for A? It says, actually, yes, because I read up that this is now a new problem in Brooklyn.
So I know you deal with I know you have a lot of clients in a lot of fields. I also know you're doing something and you're marketing a real estate project here in Israel.
6 of them.
6 of them. Okay. Just imagine as an example, you have an interview on Monday and a graphic designer comes in and they have 6 ads mocked up. If you hire them, this is what they would do. It doesn't have to be perfect, but they show initiative and they show that they have a unique way of thinking and maybe something you'll take an idea from something they did. I'm not speaking for you, but I think that person would be way more likely to get hired by you than someone who just comes in and shows a picture of their second cousin's bas mitzvah
100%.
banner.
100%. So we are close to wrapping up, and I know we probably should do a part 2 because we could go on for so long.
I got 3 more things to say before you hang up. So
we're not hanging up yet. So let's hear it.
Okay. So number 1 is that I've told this to people going for job interviews. It's a quick tip. It works amazing magic. I don't remember where I got it from. I can't give credit. Before you go to a job interview, whether you have money or you don't have money, doesn't matter. Borrow if you need to $1,000, $100 bills. Put it in your back pocket when you go to the interview. Because there's a certain feeling of having money in your pocket that will help you put your best foot forward in an interview and give you a certain confidence you wouldn't have otherwise. That's one thing. The next thing is like this. Besides what we discussed about having certain job skills, you can sometimes have a non-job related skill that will help you. When I came to Meridian, I was a notary public. A notary public is not a big deal to become. You got to read a booklet. And the reason why I became a notary public is because I went to take a real estate test. I seemed I had the wrong day, or I came 5 minutes late for the test. They wouldn't let me into the room. They changed the time from 10 o'clock to 9:30 and 9:30 to 9 o'clock. Came 3 minutes after the time. They wouldn't let me in. But once I was there, I looked at what booklets they have. They have to become a barber. They have to become a notary public. Anyway, a week later, I took the notary public test and I passed it. I'm notary public. Suddenly, I'm in Meridian Capital. I'm brand new. But every big shot in the company that needs a notary, we have a notary in the house. I mean, you don't have to go downstairs anymore. The office manager, who's also a notary, is not here. We can go to Issamar Ginzberg, can notarize it for you. And that brought me a certain amount of value. Now, if you're about to hire a person to work at McDonald's, regular worker, one person has a course in first aid that they took and one person doesn't, who are you going to hire, all the things being equal? It doesn't have to be a job skill. Now, the reason why people hire college-educated people, you sometimes see jobs, must have college degree. It doesn't say college degree in a certain thing. It just says college degree. Why? Because even if you have a degree in medieval French literature, which is not helpful, excuse me to anyone that has one. I know someone that has one, but excuse me, it's not helpful in life, as the person who has one told me, and they regret getting it. But it shows that you were able to go as an adult after school, learn new information, retain the information, be tested on the information. And that's the reason why people sometimes want college degrees, because they want to see that you can retain information as an adult. Therefore, if you can do things to show an employer, potential employer, that you can retain information as an adult, that's really what they're looking for. Okay. The last thing I want to say, and then we can wrap up or whatever you want. I don't know how you usually wrap up. I didn't do the research by listening to the end of podcasts that you've done, is that when you said before about people pushing you out of your comfort zone, in our community especially, but I find this to be a big mistake, people think that a consultant consults on everything, and people think that a coach is a consultant and a consultant is a coach. There are lawyers who specialize in international adoptions. If you come to them with a real estate case, they will not do it. There are lawyers who specialize in real estate cases. If you come to them with an international adoption, they will not do it. Then you have a few people who never really become successful as in business, who do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, never focus, never niche. We're not talking about those guys. But the point is that just like we just discussed in lawyers, the specialties, in consulting there are specialties. Coaching is not consulting. Coaching is trying to help you find within yourself, you can do it, you can hit the basket, you can get the puck into the net, whatever. Consulting is much different. Consulting is, Let me show you the way. Let me tell you from my experience, from my knowledge, what I think you should do, shouldn't do. I mean, in the last 2-3 days alone, I have, as I'm saying it, examples coming into my head. If I have a client in the insurance business that he was basically, this is going to sound silly to the audience, but it's worth saying as an example because I'm sure there are other people out there. My client's not the only one. My client's a successful businessman. He couldn't figure out how to export his entire database from a certain online site because they didn't make it easy. I'll grant him that. And he was manually doing name by name, number, name, email, number, name, email. And I said, there's got to be a way. Took 5 minutes. I was able to export his list. His computer wouldn't let him use, I don't remember why, but anyway, he couldn't use Excel. For some reason, he didn't have Excel. So I figured out a way around it. I went to Google Sheets, uploaded the Excel that I had downloaded from that list that I had gotten from the website that wouldn't give it. You put it in Google Sheets. Once it was in Google Sheets, then I was able to use Google Sheets as Excel. I was able to resave the file as a different type of file. Then I was able to upload it and use it. He tells me, like you can't imagine how much time you just saved me, how many hours I spent over the last few days doing name by name by name.
Yeah.
When people need knowledge, I'm not talking about coaching. Coaching is something else. It is worth it. It isn't worth it. Depends who you are, how much money you have, how much you can afford, what you're trying to achieve. But having someone give you knowledge has to be worth all the money in the world. There's nothing that you, Meny or myself, or a doctor for that matter, or a lawyer, could share with someone that they could not find that information themselves on the internet. Except it might take them 20 years to come across that piece of information, or they might end up doing something wrong in the meantime. Forget the amount of time it'll take them. That'll take them the opposite track, the opposite direction on the train than they're looking to go. It pays to pay just like a doctor and a lawyer. And I know I have nagias. I know I'm obviously, I'm saying this. I have an interest in people hiring consultants, in general. But yes, it pays to pay for knowledge if you can afford to, as opposed to trying to figure it all out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've paid myself thousands, and I don't even know. You can't either. How many seminars we've gone through, and how many books we've read, and how many hours we've spent, and how many mistakes we've made, and how the white. You have a little whiter beard than me, a little older than me. You can't see in the lighting. I also have a little bit, but it comes from living in the trenches. It doesn't come from
Exactly. Hey listeners, are you struggling to create beautiful looking proposals? Is it a hassle every time you need to prepare a quote or proposal for your clients? Is collecting signatures still a manual process? Well, it's time to upgrade to PandaDoc. At PTEX, we use PandaDoc for all our proposals, employee documentation, and so much more. It saves us time, keeps everything organized, and our documents look incredibly professional. With customizable templates, real-time collaboration, and e-signatures, PandaDoc turns creating documents into quick and easy steps. Plus, it integrates with so many other tools, streamlining your workflow and boosting productivity. Try PandaDoc today by visiting ptex.co/PandaDoc and start your free trial. Trust me, it's going to be a game changer for your business. That's ptex.co/PANDADOC. And I think this actually keeps me fresh because I keep on, the knowledge that I keep on picking up. Like people always ask me, like, why did you dabble here? Why did you dabble there? Because you need to constantly keep fresh on what's going on, what's the trends are happening, what technology is moving in, what industries are shaping, the most recent developments. But I think the point that you're making is a very important point for our listeners to understand. And I think this has been a discussion, in business owners. And I think people are much more receptive today than they used to be because people are seeing the value if it's done right, the right timing, and the right consulting. Of course, you still need to find the right person, and the value needs to be there. Where could people find out more about you, and if they want to check out more of your stuff?
My name is Issamar. It's not a common name. I think Meny is not such a common name either, compared to
the Meny with the E.
The Meny with the E, right?
Uh-huh.
Meny. So essentially, I pretty much own my name as far as I don't have many other people with the same name. So you can just Google my name. Issamar, Rabbi Issamar. My website is rabbiissamar.com, but my name is Issamar Ginzberg, Issamar. I'm on a first name basis with Google, so if you just put in my first name, you'll find me pretty quickly. I just want to say, I want to tie one thing that you said just to put the cherry on top. We discussed Wayne Gretzky and the hockey puck. AI, essentially, is coming for a lot of businesses. And businesses will be disrupted, and margins and different businesses are being compressed. I'm not going to get into a whole conversation about that now. But essentially, if you could think about how AI is going to change the industry you have a business in, or you work in, or the area you live in, then you can do something unique by being on the cutting edge, because something new means everyone's on the cutting edge. There's no one besides the people within Google that have been using Nano Banana longer than a week or so.
Yeah.
So, get on board, don't try to do everything. Try to pick something specific, figure out how it can help your current industry, your current clients, just take something and try to work with it.
Beautiful.
Easy example for this is you tell a writer, if you get writer's block, you can't figure out what to write next, think of a banana. Why a banana? He opened the door and he saw, what do I write next? I can't think. A banana. A banana? What do you mean you saw a banana? Okay, not a banana. He saw an old man, with a basket of apples. But it takes you out of your writer's block because you thought of something else. The point of starting something or doing something is not to be successful at it. It's to get you to start doing something and then let the Eibishter, let heaven fear you, guide you into doing what's right for you, what's going to work for you.
Beautiful. For the links, resources mentioned in this episode, check out the show notes at www.ptexgroup.com/podcast. Let's close with the 4 rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I should have checked it out first. So you got to do your homework. Go ahead.
Our listeners know about the 4 rapid fire questions.
I don't.
Number 1, a book that changed your life.
Influenced by Dr. Robert Cialdini.
Yep.
And I gotta also say that I found the Duncan Bannatyne's book to be very insightful.
What's the name of that book?
Do it. Anyone can do it.
Number 2, a piece of advice you got that you'll never forget.
A piece of advice that I got that I will never forget. I'm sure there's a lot of them. I'm not trying to sound like there aren't any. It's on the spur of the moment. A piece of advice that I got that I will never forget. Okay, my late uncle, was a very famous Rebbe, the Kalva Rebbe from Yerushalayim. He was very famous as a tzaddik, as a holy Jew, as somebody who went through the Holocaust and always had a very positive attitude, even though he lost everything in the war. Didn't leave over any children, unfortunately. I was very close to him. That's actually one of the reasons that I came to Eretz Yisrael, to Israel, because I wanted to be able to bask in his presence. And he used to say that there's a Hashem says in in a pasuk, in a verse, we had it, a similar verse 2 weeks ago in the weekly parsha. The word in Shem Kodesh, Hashem says, God says, I will bless you in all that you do. And he used to say, people are very busy that, okay, Hashem will help, God will help. He says they forget that there's a key operative word, tasa. You gotta do, and Hashem's gonna help. So he used to say, some people in their life they try 5 things, they accomplish 2 or 3, the other 2 fail. He says, in my lifetime I've tried 100 things. Did they all work out? No. Over 90 failed. If you look at it that way, I'm a failure. If you look at the fact that I accomplished in the other 10 more than most people accomplish in a lifetime, I'm a success.
Beautiful.
He was very busy with the tasa. You gotta do. You gotta know that what you're doing is a shtadlis. You're hoping for the best, and nothing's guaranteed. But you gotta take action. You can't just sit and do nothing.
Number 3, anything you wish you could go back and do differently.
I gotta say one more thing. There's a quote that I like. Never confuse motion with action. If you go on a merry-go-round, around and around, it's motion. If you take a horse from Williamsburg to Manhattan, it's action. So don't confuse the two. When you're doing something, think of it. Is it motion or is it action? Go ahead.
Number 3, anything you wish you could go back and do differently.
I keep thinking, every time somebody that I was close to, and I try to get a lot of both in the Jewish world and beyond. Every time one of the people who I consider at some level to be one of my mentors passes away, I think, I was so stupid and not, I should have done more of that. Why didn't I ever think of that? Why didn't my mother's father, why didn't I spend more time to him? He knew so much about family history and about the his last name was Reuben. He was from the Rapshitzer dynasty of Rebbe's. Why didn't I was so stupid. Why didn't I take a tape recorder and sit with him? All those kind of things. I mean, it's always in hindsight. Every time here in Israel, there's a thing that when people pass away, one of the old-fashioned ways, besides the speakers and the mics and the internet notices, is on the wall they hang these big, with glue, like a glue made out of flour and water. They hang these huge posters. And every time I see one of these people, like very special holy man, and I'm thinking, why didn't I know about him when he was alive? Why do I have to find out about him on the poster? Why didn't I go to him earlier and drink from his wells of wisdom? That's a big regret. I constantly keep repeating, unfortunately.
Yeah. Last and final question. What's still on your bucket list to achieve?
Okay, so it's a very good question. I used to have in my old house, I used to have on my, where my feet were, meaning to say, when I went to sleep, my headboard, my head, my pillows, my head, where my feet were, there was a, what do they call it, an Amar? And on it I had post-it notes with different things I want to accomplish in life. Some of them I haven't accomplished yet. Some of them I have. I mean, I guess that was my bucket list. And some of them I accomplished, and when I realized I accomplished it, I realized what a stupid, irrelevant goal it was. I once had a vision and a dream of being a CEO of a public company. Okay? After having done it, I could tell you it was such a dumb goal. It was such a dumb goal. And other than having everyone say, being able to say I'm the CEO, there was so much behind the scenes that, every time something had to be done, well, you're the CEO, so it falls on your plate. So now, what's on my bucket list that I would like to do? I would like to meet, I'm not talking about a Jewish thing here. I would like to meet Warren Buffett. I would go to Omaha, Nebraska to his annual thing, except it's always on Shabbos. Every year he does it on a weekend, and that's not going to work for me, and there's never going to be a Shabbos that's going to work for me. So that doesn't work for me. That's something I think I would like and I think I would find valuable. What's on my bucket list? I mean, I'd like to finish. You know what? I'll tell you something on my bucket list. There's a thing called Daf Yomi about finishing every day a folio of Talmud to finish it. There's Bavli, there's Yerushalmi, which less people get to. I had a great, I think, grandfather. I'm not sure if I got the number of greats right. His name was Rabbi Shula Mordcha Kohen Shvadron. He was the grandfather of the famous Maggid, Reb Shalom Shvadron. But he was the, like I said before, Reb Chaim Kanievsky and Moshe Feinstein, he was the posek, he was the halachic top justice, just trying to find the appropriate English term, in his generation. Everybody knew you had a big question. Didn't matter if you were Hasidic or from a different stream of orthodoxy. You went. He was the person to ask. He wrote a set of Sfarim, a set of Shalosh Tshuvos, a set of a set of books of Jewish law where unique questions came to him. Very unique questions based on his day and age about fire insurance. What happens in such a case? What happens if? All kind of interesting questions. I would like to cover and learn through all his Sfurim, cover to cover. I really would like that. I've tried, and if you look up on the internet, you can put in your show notes. There's different things that even come up in the, even come up as far as questions of halacha that come up in modern questions, what kind of modern medical technologies and so on and so forth. But because he was such a genius, and because when you try to read what he wrote, everything is referencing other things that he wrote. It's not like you could just open it like many other forum, like many other books, and just see what he wrote. It seems almost impossible. I would like to find somebody, a big Talmud Chochem, to go through it with me. I don't think that's what you expected as an answer, but that's mine.
Issamar, thank you so much for joining us. I know your time is valuable. That is why, in the name of our listeners, we'll forever be grateful for sharing some of your time with us today. It's been a blast.
Thank you very much, Meny. I appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate it. That's my conversation with Rabbi Issamar Ginzberg. My takeaway from this one: number one, tell the truth. The most powerful marketing tool you have is honesty. When you're real, people remember you. Number two, action beats ideas. You can plan all day, but progress starts with the moment you take the first step. Number three, prepare before the movement. Success rarely happens by luck. It happens because you were ready when the door opened. Number four, build credibility through consistency. Show up, do good work, and let results talk louder than promises. And number five, turn what you know into value. Everyone has knowledge worth sharing. The key is packaging clearly so others can benefit and pay for it. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Let's Talk Business podcast. I hope you enjoyed the practical, no-nonsense advice that our guest shared. If you found value in listening, I would be so grateful if you could share the episode with your friends, and if you could give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever platform you listen. Subscribe to the show and get notified every time we publish a new episode. The Let's Talk Business podcast is a PTEX Group original production. Until next time, make it a great day.